Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, a podcast that is becoming increasingly erratic as to when we get in. We can only blame those people who fill up nappies with poo and take up your time and change your schedule and change your life. My name is Tosin and I'm the host of Netflix vs. Cinema. And if you might have not picked it up, I am recently a new father. So, and it's wreaking havoc with our podcast recording schedule. But joining us on the Isle of Wight, as always, is Sharon Bolland.
Hello.
Yes, and this week Sharon is the only one joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, because I feel like, okay, ever since it's all around this kid, isn't it? It's all around this kid because we had a good thing where we're showing up every Thursday 6 p.m. and then this kid gets to the point where she's about to arrive, and then obviously things get a bit crazy because I'm needed more around the house, and then all of a sudden we miss a week, and then we miss 2 weeks, and then I get back, I'm like, guys, I can do a week, but then Sean's in Thailand, and then Holly's off being like, a culture vulture, and then Sharon hasn't seen anything in cinema, and next thing you know, we're like recording like once a month. So
Yes. I look for things to watch at the cinema. Most every week I go, what's on this week? And I think, nah.
Yeah, I have to admit that there were a couple of weeks where I didn't feel like I'd missed much, but I have managed to make it to the cinema for the first time since my second daughter was born, I think I mentioned something about a very, very cunning plan. I think on the last podcast, a very cunning plan I had, which meant that I would actually get to go to the cinema again. So on Mondays, I have my first daughter. I'm supposed to be looking after her. I'm supposed to be looking after her. And my wife has started getting up like, oh, you need to get up out of the house and just stop sitting down and watching TV. You need to get out of the house and do something. And I was like, wait a second. I have for the whole day. We could go to the cinema. So instead of staying at home and watching something, we're going out of the house to a bigger place to watch a bigger screen. That's what we do on Mondays. It does mean that I will only be bringing you a steady stream of movies that the highest they can be rated is 12A.
Which they're family friendly.
Well, 12A. Although it does mean that next week I've already blocked it out. I can go and see The Marvels. So
that's out this weekend, isn't it?
That is out this weekend. I can go see The Marvels. So not everything 12A is rubbish. Not everything 12A is trolls band together, because that is what I saw, and that is what we shall be reviewing on the show today. We shall be reviewing Trolls band together because it's the only thing I've seen in cinema in 2.5 months.
Oh, wowzers.
Yeah, it's the only thing I've seen in cinema in 2.5 months. So Trolls band together, that's what you're getting. And so for those of you who do not know what we do on this show, and I've seen the title, I've seen Netflix vs. Cinema, what is this all about? Now, we go to the cinema, we try to go to the cinema every week and see a couple of things. We see a couple of things on streaming, and then we try and figure out where money has been better spent this week by rating everything out of 5. So I am representing cinema today, which is a novel thing for the last couple of weeks. And Sharon, you are representing Netflix and Friends. What are you bringing to the table with Netflix and Friends?
I saw a true life crime drama, which is not my favourite genre, called The Long Shadow.
And
that was I watched it on ITV Catch Up, so that is it was on terrestrial television. I missed it, so I watched that on Catch Up.
Yeah. Or ITVX, as they're now calling it as well.
Yes.
ITVX, yeah, it's all available on ITVX. I heard about that. All right, cool. So without further ado, we shall keep this brief. Seeing as we only have 2 things, and I'm going to kick off on talking about Trolls band together. Now, this is, and Sharon, I know this is like kryptonite for you because this is animation, and you're not going anywhere near that. And also, I don't even think you have. I don't even think
I have seen Frozen.
Yeah, you've seen Frozen, yeah, but
is it on the trolls from Frozen? Oh, they're not the trolls in Frozen.
They are not the trolls from Frozen. This is a whole different thing. This is a whole. If you want to get into who owns what IP, Frozen is Disney, Trolls is DreamWorks. So this is from the same people from the same studio that gave you Shrek and stuff like that. And
they're the sticky up haired trolls.
They are the sticky up haired trolls, like the ones that you can get on the end of pens and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure what they. But that's what they look like, and they have a sort of like a very sort of fluffy, cuddly aesthetic to them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think any of the kids in your life are young enough to have even dragged you along to this film. But this is the third Trolls movie, which I was kind of, I know.
There's three of them.
There's three of them. There's three of them. This is the third Trolls movie, and and I think that these things follow a sort of certain pattern. The first Trolls movie comes out and is like a bit, oh yeah, does something. Oh, we made enough money. We made loads of money. Let's make a second one. And by the time you get to the third one, I don't really think the plot matters. And you have all these characters. You have Poppy and you have Branch, and these are things that kids of a certain age. I think like my nephew, no, not my nephew, my nieces. Definitely, my nieces are the right age. They were at the age where this caught them, and they loved Trolls. They loved the Trolls thing. They talk about Poppy and Branch and all that. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I have a very, very, very fuzzy idea of what these characters are and everything. But Poppy is a troll princess. Branch was a troll who was voiced by Justin Timberlake, is all I can say. And in this third film, what you find out is that Branch, he's gone from the sort of outcast to going out with the princess. And you find out that he used to, being in fact that he was, if I say the name Justin Timberlake to you, Sharon, does it mean anything?
Yes.
Okay.
I've heard of him. I've seen him act, but I haven't heard. I know principally he was like a singer, but I don't know any of his music.
Okay, cool, good. Well done. I'll give you a lot of stars for that. But so Justin Timberlake, he first came to public consciousness in a boy band called NSYNC. And the thing with the Trolls franchise, from what I can get to, it's always about the pop music. So the Trolls have this poppy aesthetic, and there's always pop songs playing all the way through all the films and all that kind of stuff. And so in this film, you find out that the character voiced by Justin Timberlake used to be part of a boy band, which had 5 members. And there's a whole plot in there about the fact that they were all brothers. He was the youngest one of all of them. And the oldest one was obsessed with them getting the perfect family harmony. And the perfect family harmony was so wonderful that it's the only thing that can shatter diamond. They give you that thing. It turns out that years later, he's grown up. His brothers have disbanded because they had a show that went disastrously wrong when they failed to get the perfect family harmony. And it turns out that one of their brothers is now trapped by some people who are stealing, some talentless hacks who are stealing his talent so that they can become famous. And they have trapped him in a glass made of
diamonds.
Yes. So the older brother,
these people are geniuses.
I know. So the older brother has gone around to put his brothers back together. Very Jackson 5. I think Jackson 5 has something like the archetypal boy band, and like everybody since then has kind of copied the Jackson 5. But that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. To put them together, and then the show, it becomes a kind of like, we're putting the band together thing where we've got to go here and get that guy, and you have to go there and get that guy, we've got to go there and get that guy. But it doesn't, and this is a film that, the thing is, okay, ADHD is a condition that I do not know that much about, and so I am loath to sort of speak about it flippantly, but this is a film that flits around and throws so much color at you, and it's so mad, and it's so mental, and I imagine that there's some people who might watch it and might just need to have a lie down after about 5 minutes.
Take a time out afterwards.
Oh, no, seriously, take a time out afterwards, because like, what is going on? There's so much craziness going on. And there is actually a little bit of inventiveness in this, because the way the musical numbers are staged, I actually quite like the way they use music. I like the way they use music. There's some inventiveness in there. They've put some thoughts into it, and especially because it's all animated, they can go as crazy as possibly as they want. So I think that bit of it I quite like. But I feel like it's very, having not watched the first 2, I'm watching this one feeling like, okay, I think there's a law of diminishing returns here, because they have all these characters, and it's something I think that happens particularly in DreamWorks films. It happened in the Shrek movies as well, which the third one of which also stars Justin Timberlake. But where you have all these characters that you've met in the first couple of films, and they add in all these other characters in, but then you feel as if there's no time for anybody. So you have Poppy, who's voiced by Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick is a world-famous actress. She's a very good actress. And when I think about it, I'm like, really? Honestly, at one point I had to check that there was actually Anna Kendrick doing the voice, because I'm thinking, for what she has to do in this film, you could have gotten a sound alike, and just put her in there.
Got AI to do it.
Yeah, you're gonna sound like to sort that out. They bring in Camila Cabello to play a whole thing because while Branch is reconnecting with his brothers, you find out that Poppy has a sister that she never knew that she had that has miraculously shown up in the third film, and you're like, okay, cool, okay, fine. Okay, okay, I get this. There are some things to be said about Fame because the bad guys of the film are essentially like the worst contestants you could find on X Factor or something like that, and who are trying to steal somebody else's talent so that they could do something with it. And I just it's not what you would call good, but it is what. Essentially, this is the kind of film that if you have a particularly sort of like young person in your life, you take them to the screen and they will sit down and they will be wrapped and that is what this film is designed to do. This film is designed to hold the attention of 3-year-olds. That is it. So, oh, here's this thing. Oh no, oh, there's another thing. Oh, shiny. Let's move. and even the way when they put in the band together, they don't even. It's like we're going to hear. Okay, cool. We've met this person. Oh, we've been here 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, that's enough. We will wrap it up. Let's go. Next person. Next place. Next rainbow colored thing that we need to throw at the screen. And the storyline. I mean, from what I told you. You can guess the entire storyline of what happens in this film. What happens, when does it happen, what goes on, blah, blah, blah. They bring back some characters who I don't think were major characters in the first film, but they bring them back and give them like a random storyline that could go... Anyway, I don't know why I'm trying to critically assess this thing. That's not what this thing is for. They've probably done their market research and said that character was very, very well liked by young children from the ages of between the ages of 2 and 7, and so that character is coming back even if they have nothing to do. And all in all, I think I would have to give this a 3 out of 5. Because if I was trying to be critical about it, I'll be like, oh, it's probably just only a 2. But the truth is, come on, this is not a film that's supposed to be critically appraised. This is a film that's supposed to keep the attention of 3-year-olds while their parents fall asleep in the seat next to them. And does it do that? Yes, it does. It definitely keeps their attention. I mean, it might be too loud for the parents to fall asleep, but still, that's what it does. And for that, I'll say, well done. It's a 3 out of 5. Although I'm pretty sure if I went back to watch the first film, I would find more in it because I feel like they have. Without having seen the first two, this feels like laws of diminishing returns, and the way the story is.
It feels like a sequel. You could just tell.
It feels like a sequel. It feels like a sequel where they have gotten lazy. Quite frankly, without watching the first two, it has all the hallmarks of sequel where people making the film have gotten lazy. And that is it. 3 stars for Trolls Band Together. Take the young person in your life. They will love it. You will get a very expensive nap. So now we go on to Netflix, and you were talking about The Long Shadow on ITVX, and
there couldn't be a greater contrast between what you just talked about.
I'm pretty sure there couldn't be
the gulf between these two films is just enormous.
Maybe that's the public service that Trolls Band Together does. Like you watch The Long Shadow on ITVX, and then you go watch Trolls to perk you back up. To pull you back, because this is a true crime. It's a true crime thing, and it's based on events that I can imagine you were aware of when they were happening.
I was a lot. Yes, I remember them happening. It goes into the events of what's become known as the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah,
and the crimes that man committed.
Yeah.
In the sort of mid to late 70s, and then it carried on into the early 80s. So I was at school throughout all of that, and so I was aware of it through all of it. Yeah, and
probably being very happy you don't live in Yorkshire.
Yes, absolutely. So this is I think it's a 7-parter, an ITV drama. So it's British based and entirely British cast, and I think most of the casts are genuinely northern.
Okay.
They are authentically. I think when I looked at the cast afterwards, like David Morrissey, there's Toby Jones, there's Sam Waddington, there's
Toby Jones is northern.
Maybe he's not northern.
I'm only going off the roles he plays.
Mark Addy again. So some of them are I don't think he's Northern, but I think his dad was in Emmerdale, so maybe that's why I'm thinking he's Northern. He's an honorary Northerner. His dad was like a stalwart of Emmerdale.
Yeah.
But it's a great cast, and it's an all British cast. Yeah, and sort of Lee Ingleby, he's not Northern, but
Okay.
yeah. So there's a good cast in it. But basically, takes two strands. It looks at the women and their lives and sort of tries to flesh out some of the women who were the victims of this killer.
Yeah.
But it doesn't deal with their deaths. It literally deals up with the days, with their sort of the lives, and then you may get a glimpse of the night they died, but you don't ever see what happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's described in sort of clinical terms during the police investigation, but it doesn't dwell on the actual killing. So
It doesn't sort
some
of
of these true
glamorize it. Yeah.
yes, because some of these true crime dramas, it seems to be all about this sort of the death, and
Yeah.
that I think has like an almost pornographic feel about it because they're almost like
100%.
reveling in this gruesomeness. So there's none of that. So
Yeah.
the most you see is that one of the victims may get in a car, you see the car drive off, and that's it. Then the
Yeah.
next day you may see the suggestion of a body or some feet that's in a field that's sort of white, that obviously are from a body. But
Yeah.
that's all you see. You don't see anything else. So I give it certainly points for that it doesn't dwell on the actual death. But it's mainly from the point of view of the women. You see their lives, that they had families, they had children, they had husbands, they were part of families,
Yeah.
and also the police investigation. And I think the emphasis on this film is basically what went wrong, what took them so long. And I think I was interested in this subject basically because there are events that I remember,
Yeah.
and also because obviously I spent 26 years in the police service.
Yep.
And my role was to record and analyse crime as a civilian.
Yep.
So every crime that was committed on the Isle of Wight, I basically knew about. And we did have murders. We only ever had, in 26 years that I was there, we had one stranger murder, i.e. we didn't know who did it at the time of the crime.
Yeah.
And all the others were either domestic or the people were known to each other. So the closest I ever came to an investigation of a crime like this was when we did have a murder where a body was found and we had no idea who was responsible. And so there was a major inquiry, and I was drafted in to answer the phones that day. And I was the runner for the day.
Yeah.
Because in those days, we didn't have an incident room. We were three of us in my office were told, right, you're manning the phones today. We're going to put a peel out on the 9 o'clock news. We're going to put a peel out at lunchtime. We're going to put a peel out. You just have to answer the phone.
Yeah.
They didn't give us any briefing. We don't know what on earth what they were looking for. They just said, we're going to put a peel out. Anyone who was in this location at this time, you answer the phone, and then you just make notes according to what the person tells you.
Yeah.
But so I'd spent the whole day doing that, and then the next day they set the incident room up, and we were just relieved. So I have a glimpse into this world.
Yes.
And so basically, in the Yorkshire at this time, they had never had a mass murderer, as in more than one stranger murder.
Yes.
So as the events unfolded and the amount of information they had, they were left with basically this overwhelming amount of information in a pre-digital age. So there was quite a lot with the police investigation, and basically how they were left with very limited forensics and things. You didn't have like DNA, you didn't have CCTV coverage that we have now that we rely on so much. It's literally the nuts and bolts of the police investigation, down to the like measuring tire tracks and then working out how many possible car types could have that type of tire, and what type of and then thinking, okay, that narrows it down to 100 makes of car. Potentially in this area, there could be, in this one town, there could be 900 cars of that similar type.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So it looked at the investigation, but it also looked at how the police dealt with these women. How early on they branded them as, this is a man who goes after prostitutes.
Yeah.
And in almost mitigating to say, well, it's just prostitutes. So you know what? It's not a problem. And then when someone who is not a prostitute was killed, they were described as an innocent victim. And it's just like, well, what were the other 6 women then before that? Were they not innocent victims too? But there was like, they almost like asked for it and they didn't. And then when women were attacked who weren't prostitutes, and when they said, we think you might be a Ripper victim, they were said, no, absolutely not. I'm not a prostitute. But if you say that I'm a Ripper victim, all my neighbours are going to say you're a prostitute. And that slur on my character is enough, basically, to ruin my reputation and the
Yeah.
life of my family in this area. So I was hit over the head with a hammer. Yes, I was stabbed, but I was not a victim of the Ripper. And if you say I was, heaven help you, I'm not going to. And so you've had this judgment placed on the victims of this crime.
Yes.
And you see that in quite detail. So that is fascinating. I mean, I saw glimpses of that in my policing life. They're very people are very judgmental, but I think the key thing about this was that they were so desperate to find this man that I think they tried to make the evidence fit certain suspects and to fit a pattern, even though the evidence was telling them something different. They took the bits that fitted into their preconceived idea of what was going on, and if it didn't fit in that pattern, then they either dismissed it or ignored it, and thereby losing vital evidence and sort of helping to solve this crime.
You see, everything you're saying is just reinforcing the reason why I didn't watch this.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It makes you like, especially there's one poor woman who was assaulted, and because she refuses to, because she says, I'm not a prostitute, I'm just not a prostitute. And they're saying, well, you're obviously lying. You're obviously lying, so therefore nothing you say can be taken as fact, because you're denying the fact that you're a prostitute, you're therefore unreliable, and we cannot take your testimony and we cannot use this as part of our investigation. And it's like, well, are you telling her? Or are you seeking her information? When you look at that, you sort of go,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you want to scream at the screen.
It's amazing. Even just hear you speak about it, I'm getting a little bit despairing. I'm almost kind of like, it's almost bringing a tear to my eye, because I'm just thinking, oh, good God. It's kind of a similar reason why sometimes I really, really struggle to watch shows that are built around the way, like, if it has to deal with the experience of black people in the 80s in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is very worthy and I'm sure this is brilliant, but I just cannot.
I just don't want to go
I can't.
there. Yeah. So I watched this almost against my will, because I started to watch it not realizing what I was getting into, and then when I was watching it, I was just thinking, was pretty damning of that police investigation. I think, I don't know if they had an agenda when they were making it, but it certainly was pretty damning. And I think retrospect is an amazing thing, because you can look back and see all the places where you make a mistake. But when you're in the middle of it, it's hard you have to have that clear-sightedness. But the fact that Peter Sutcliffe, who was the Yorkshire Ripper, was arrested 9 times, that his vehicle was on file numerous times, that he'd been arrested with a hammer years before in the same area where some of these attacks had been made. Their pieces were all there. It was just getting that. But they had like thousands upon thousands of vehicles that had been logged. They had spoken to thousands of men, so the information was all there, and they had something like 40 these identikit pictures and sketches that all look exactly like him, but he just managed to just evade it, because basically he was an ordinary guy. They were looking for a monster.
They were looking for somebody with fangs and a twirling mustache who walked around in a cape and a top hat.
They were looking for their villain, their monster, this evil incarnate. And this was a guy who you would have not looked at if you'd passed him in the street. So the monsters are among us, because, monsters wear jeans and trainers and hoodies, and they look like us, because, they are us, really. And I think that they're not set apart. So I think it was fascinating. It was fascinating and horrifying. And I do think the police were given a really hard time in this film, justifiably in some cases, but in other ways I'm thinking, were they really that bad? Because, these people are not, the police officers involved in the investigation, as my experience shows me, was that they genuinely want to get the right guy. They don't want to get the wrong person, and so you've still got the nutter out there. They want to solve these crimes. They want to protect women. And because they went down this wrong path with this Wearside Jack in part of the inquiry, women were killed, and women were sort of brutalized because of this wrong line of the investigation. But I don't think they did it willfully. I think they genuinely wanted to get the right guy. They were just so desperate that they weren't looking at the whole picture.
but I guess that there is a reason for this to happen because, for instance, you had the story that happened in I think it was this Sarah Everard in
Yes.
London like a couple of years ago, where it seems like the some of the same mistakes were made again.
Get made, yeah.
Yeah,
Assumptions are made early on,
yeah,
and you don't follow the facts or you don't follow the evidence.
yeah. You don't follow the evidence, or there's something institutional that means that you turn a blind eye and let somebody carry on, even though, like, so it's so I guess that there's a reason for this to be made. There's a reason for them
Yeah.
to come out and to tell this story again and to say, "Hey, look, the more things change," and it's
Yeah.
I guess that there is a reason for that, and I
And you have to
applaud it.
hold these people to account. I
Yeah,
think that's why they had an investigation. You have to hold these investigations to account to
yeah,
teach people, to learn from these things.
yeah,
And
yeah, and
if lessons aren't learned, then you think, where are we going with with
yes.
justice in this country in some ways
And
or
it's
the
one of
world?
these things where I'm happy something like this gets made. I think it's good that it gets made, but I will probably never watch it.
No, and I
uh,
can't say it's entertainment. I mean, I hate the use of true crime as entertainment. I mean, I
yeah,
do
I
read
know.
crime novels, and I sometimes read cozy crime novels, and I always tend to read them set in a sort of period setting,
Yeah,
because I don't read modern crime or this or sort of forensic crime sort of stuff, because I don't find that the least bit entertaining, because it's too.
it's
I
too
just
real.
don't. It's
Yeah,
too real. I just don't. And so this, I think I was drawn to it, one, because it's something I remember. It's part of the world I remember. I know that world of sort of police investigations, even though I only sort of touched on murders, yeah, rarely in my career. But I know how crimes are investigated. So I find that aspect of it really intriguing to me. Um,
okay, okay, cool. Before I ask for your star rating, it just occurred to me because obviously I was just talking about crime novels sometimes being too real and therefore not being a bit exploitative or glorifying of the crime. I wondered, there must be like and you should know because you read a lot of books and stuff like that. There must be a line of literature where it's kind of like a detective novel but set in a fantasy realm. So a detective novel, but with orcs and elves
yeah,
and wizards and all
absolutely.
that kind of stuff.
Fantasy. You do get fantasy detectives and wizards and all sorts of things going. Yeah, you do get that.
Oh, okay,
There's sort
okay,
of
cool.
genres within genres. There's like, yeah,
Okay,
chance.
cool.
Yeah,
That
there
I
are.
might just have found my new thing, but
Yeah.
but okay. So with that, I mean, obviously, it's I think good that it was done, and you said that it sounds like it was done respectfully. How many stars would you give this in the end? Like at the
I
end of it?
sort of struggle with this because I think it's, if you're interested in that, in sort of true crime done sensitively to the victims of this crime and their families, and with your eyes wide open, you're not trying to glamorize one side or the other. You don't glamorize
Yes.
the policing aspect. You don't glamorize the crime. I think they handled that really, really well. So I would, for that, I'll probably give it a 4. But in
Okay.
terms of entertainment, the content, I can't see it as entertainment personally. I find it's just, I don't find true crime entertaining. But I found this drama, for all that, really fascinating
Yeah.
and moving. So I would give it a 4. I mean, if they had slipped and made it focus too much on him, focus too much on the actual nature of the crimes, it would go wow way down. But I think for me, they got that balance between trying to be fair, and sensitive, and looking at the women who some of them make choices because they had no choices,
Yeah.
and those choices maybe led them into situations where their lives were imperiled, and others just chose to walk home on one evening.
Yeah.
Um, After dark, which should not be a dangerous thing to do in any society or in any age, should it? So yeah, I would give it a 4. But I would say don't watch it if you want to have a jolly lark. Watch it if you want to look at this and come away with it feeling a little bit shell shocked afterwards, maybe.
If you want to grapple with humanity and what the rubbish
Yeah,
that we do to each other, yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool. So 4 stars for the Long Shadow. Um, uh, on that, I don't even know whether that's the thing. I don't know whether it's a depressing note or whether it's a hopeful note that at
Well,
least.
Yeah, I would say the reason it's called the Long Shadow is even though these events were like 30 odd years ago, we still talk about those events because it's cast a long shadow.
Yeah, and one of the things that they said about when it comes to glamorizing it, they apparently with this they did a lot of consulting with the families of the victims.
Yeah.
They did a lot of consulting with the families of the victims beforehand, and that's why. And part of that consulting is why the words Yorkshire and Ripper are not in the title of this show.
Yeah.
Because the families were like, no, if you say that, you give it more oxygen, and it's kind of like glamorizing and building a myth around this man. And so they were like, please don't do that. So they ended up going, okay, cool. No, that's it. We're not going to do that. We're not going to say it. We're not going to be like, blazing it over going, ooh.
And I don't think they refer to the investigations don't refer to him as that. They you see the newspaper headlines, and that's the only references to that. I think they use the term maybe once or twice, but it's not as if it's the way he's referred to. It's not. Yeah, because I shy away from using it because I'm thinking,
Yes. So,
that's
it
it.
sounds frivolous, but yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, who do you think won this week? Who do you think won this week? The people who gave us a sort of like head bashingly fruity, candy-colored rainbow time, or the people who made us look in the mirror and go, yeah, life sucks. Well, actually, anyway, until next week, when I will at least be attempting to watch the Marvels in cinema, my irregular Monday thing, I've got it 3:15 Monday next week, getting in there with my daughter, we're watching the Marvels.
I should try to watch something.
Yes. But anyway, until next week, when we do that, we might have, more than two of us. There might be a Sean, there might be a Holly, God knows, we'll find out next week. It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you ever so much for joining us. Bye.